Hey y'all, I'm Jill with Whispering Willow Farm. I'm a small-scale flower farmer located in the heart of central Arkansas. I also grow all of my own family's produce year-round, and my husband raises livestock for our family. So to say we're busy would be an understatement, but I've been growing food for the last decade, and for the last 5 or 6 years we've been selling produce wholesale to locally sourced restaurants. 4 years ago, we decided to take the leap of faith and transition into cut flowers. And I'm excited to say that this year will be our first year primarily turning profit on our farm from cut flowers, and we will just be doing produce for our family, no longer partnering with wholesale restaurants. So it's an exciting time on the farm, but there's also a lot of different shifts. So I thought I would share with you guys what I'm growing as a small-scale farmer, the varieties that I've chosen, why I've chosen them. You will also see vegetables sprinkled throughout this video as well, because again, I am growing my family's produce. We've got a 20 by 50 foot tunnel to the left side of the tunnel I'm in now, and that's where we do all of our food production for our family. We are literally growing year round, and I absolutely love that. Then to the right of our seed starting tunnel, we have a 20 by 68 foot tunnel that we are growing most of our specialty flowers in, and we also do open field cultivation with sunflowers, filler flowers, dried flowers, things like that. I consider a small scale because although we do live on 4.3 acres, less than an acre of our property is used for food and flower production. So we're having to be really efficient with succession sowing, we're having to be really diligent with the varieties that we're choosing, and really just knowing our markets super well. So while this is just probably a quarter and the first or second succession of a lot of these things in my greenhouse, I still wanted to take you guys and show you what's growing. So we are about to embark on April. This is not a heated greenhouse, although we have brought a heater out here, and it did not work. So I'm still going to show you the failures too. I have some tomatoes that did not appreciate when we dipped down into the 20s. They're a little bit stunted. I decided to go ahead and reseed. But for the most part, I really like to start things out in my seed starting tunnel for the sheer purpose that they get hardened off. Because we are starting them in this tunnel with the plastic, it really mimics the environment. We roll the sides up in the morning. It gets good airflow. It's just really conditioned versus the starts that I start inside my house, the things that are a little more delicate or really do not appreciate those cold temperatures. Those take me a little bit longer to harden off, and I do have an entire rack of straw flower, stuff like that that's a little bit more delicate in the house that I will slowly begin to transition out here in the next few weeks. But right now, let's take a look. I'm going to share with you guys what I'm growing. If you have any questions about varieties, I'll put all my seed sources down in the description below. Let me know. Happy to help you guys, but let's start right here. So I'm probably just going to go through, pick up trays, and share with you guys the varieties. I did decide to invest this year in Floret Farm. She has been breeding zinnias and a lot of other flowers for several years, and she released her signature collection this year, and I had to get my hands on them. So the first one I'm growing is called Precious Metals. It is a beautiful zinnia, lots of layers and textures. And so these, I've had a really good germination rate on. You guys can see here, these are in soil blocks. I started them in the handheld 4. We do a variety on the farm here. When we are starting things inside, we'll start with the mini 20 just to save on space. Once we start moving out to the greenhouse, we'll do the handheld 4. I have a lot of 72 cell air pruning trays from Bootstrap Farmer. Really, all the different trays that you're gonna see, everything in here has come from Bootstrap Farmer. I'll put a link down below. But as far as why I chose soil blocks for some and 72 for others, it really was just the material I had available to me. So we are making do with what we have. So the Precious Metal Zinnia, I'm really excited about. I love growing zinnias. They're a cut and come again, meaning the more that you cut and harvest off of them, the more they're going to branch and continue to produce. So they're just one of those that's great. I have started another succession of these, and we will do a couple more successions throughout the year. Next up, I have got a tray full of these little beauties. Now, This probably looks like a cucumber, and that's because it is a cucumber, but it's not any cucumber, I can assure you. These are the Katrina cucumbers. These are a hybrid variety that we grow in our greenhouse. They're the most productive cucumber I've ever grown in my entire life, and they're in fact the only cucumber I will ever grow. I've tried other varieties and it just doesn't do it justice. So the cool thing about these is they're a variety that's a parthenocarpet, which means they're only producing female flowers and they are self-pollinating. So you don't need any sort of pollinators, and it's great if you're growing in a greenhouse. But one of the most productive cucumbers I've ever grown in my many moons of growing. So add the Katrina cucumber to your must grow list. Next up, we have another Floret original. So we are specializing in dahlias. That is really kind of our end game here at Whispering Willow Farm. We've been working several years to curate dahlia tubers and collections that do really well for us southern growers, can withstand the heat and humidity a little bit better. And so primarily we are growing dahlias from tubers. They look a lot like potatoes. I have a lot of content on it if you're curious, but Floret created some dahlias that are the seeds, and so these are called the Petite Floret Dahlia. They were seeds that I started the very first year, so 4 years ago I grew dahlias from seed for the first time. Have not done it since then, so this is definitely new to me. It will produce a tuber that is identical to the parent plant. It just won't produce probably as many tubers. So we are growing these really just to trial what it would be like to grow dahlias from seed. But these are absolutely stunning. They're these beautiful little petite blooms. So I think these are going to be fun just to pop in arrangements. But as a flower farmer, I cannot recommend dahlias enough. While they are a little bit of an investment, they have become a flower I've absolutely loved growing, and I would consider it a must grow as well. So I'm just going to move across the board and then we'll just shimmy down, okay? So next up we have celosia. I love growing celosia. It's a great filler flower. When I think about making arrangements, I'm thinking about our focal flowers, our filler flowers, and our greenery. And so this is the rose gold celosia. I have grown it every single year that I've done flowers, so for the last 4 years. You can save the seeds from them very easily. So they're just little bitty babies. I started these in 72 cells, hoping I could keep them in this cell until they moved out to the garden. All right, moving on. We have got more zinnias. Obviously, zinnia is one of the main flowers we do here on the farm, so we will have a lot of dahlias, which aside from the seed dahlias I just showed you, we haven't started waking our dahlia tubers up yet, but we do a ton of sunflower production. You won't see any of those in here yet either, but we grow the Pro Cut Orange Excel, the only sunflower that we grow. We find that it withstands the pest really well in our area. We try to stay away from any lighter petaled things, as they really are prone to like beetles and grasshoppers. And so the Pro Cut Orange Excel is a sunflower, but we're growing a lot of zinnias, a lot of dahlias, a lot of sunflowers, and then a few of those same different filler flowers. We're just changing out the varieties to give different colors. So here we have a Cinderella peach. I'm going to throw a photo up here. You can see when I think about fun textures in a bouquet, the Cinderella peach is so fun. This will be my 3rd year growing it. Absolutely love it. I've had great germination. You guys can see here, these are beautiful little seedlings. They've done great. Pretty good producers, and they're just different than the other zinnias I've grown. So I like just having these for little pops of color. Next up, we have got a nasturtium mix. Now, when you think of a cut flower garden, you probably don't think of nasturtiums, and in fact, I grow these more for the edible flowers. We do a lot of charcuteries, we do a lot of salads. They're really pretty for borders and greenery, and so I am growing quite a bit of nasturtiums. However, these will not ever make their way into a bouquet or an arrangement. I just like to have stuff I can put in tower gardens, I can border around empty beds, I can put in pots and decorate, and it's more aesthetic. And this is more of one of those less productive as far as a cut flower. If you want to sell the nasturtium blooms. We've done that before. It was very profitable for us, but this is just more so when I think about a quick flower that's fast germinating, high producing, that I can fill borders with, add just depth and aesthetics to the farm. Nasturtium's kind of one of my go-to. So you'll see a few different varieties that I'm starting here. This was just a mix. You do want to be mindful though, there are trailing varieties that need some sort of trellis and support, and then there's bushing varieties. So if you're putting this at the end of a bed or something like that, just make sure you're reading the seed packet to figure out if it is a trailing one and you need to add additional support, or if it is just a bush variety that stays pretty compact. But I have a whole bunch of these started. Absolutely love them. They're kind of like a spicy radish. They're really fun on charcuterie boards with some permits, thrown on a salad or an omelet. So I definitely wouldn't say this is a cut flower variety to grow, but it is a fun one. All right, now let's move over here. We have a golden hour zinnia. You can see, this is stunning. This is also a Floret original. So we did decide that we would take a gamble this year and try some of these Floret originals, just because if you're in the flower industry, you know, Floret is kind of a big deal. The fact that I have been following her for years as she's been curating this collection, I just knew I wanted to support her. I've also been so impressed, aside from it being stunning at maturity, I had with this seed packet 100% germination rate. So the entire tray sprouted. They look great. I haven't given them any sort of fertilizer, any sort of boost. I've been overhead irrigating, and these things are just strong, healthy, vibrant little seedlings. So with zinnias, there are a ton of different varieties you can choose from. I really encourage you, figure out what color palettes you want to go with. We kind of change it later in the summer. We'll plant more moodier ones, right, as we're transitioning into fall. The spring, we're thinking light, cheery, pinks, creams, yellows. So there's just so many different varieties. You could literally spend days and days just searching for zinnia varieties and never get bored. All right, so now we're gonna move down to this row. And I have a few here that are new to me. Again, we have our Sunday Gold and our Pompous Plus Celosia, which are the staples. And there's a Flamingo Feather. I grow every single year. They've kind of just always worked in different arrangements. They pair well with some of the other things. But we did add quite a few new varieties this year. One of them would be the Terracotta Celosia. Again, playing in with the bronze. It's a lot of some of the other color palettes that I was going for this year. I have found they've taken a slower start in the greenhouse. Again, we don't have any heat, so if you're growing celosia, just know they're not going to grow as fast as a zinnia, but be patient, keep watering. They will eventually sprout up into something beautiful. So I've got multiple trays here of the terracotta. And then back here, I have got a Texas Plum Summer Sorbet mix. This is also one from Floret I grew last year. It's a fun, different texture. So that's another thing too, is with some of these different flowers, celosia specifically, you can find a lot of different textures. And if you find that it's an easy flower for you to grow a lot of the different varieties that can add different depths and arrangements, and is just fun visually to look at. So that's a lot of what I'm doing. Again, like I mentioned, we have our staple filler flowers. We're just trying to play around with the color palettes in those and some of the different textures that they throw off. These are one of those. I also have some snap peas, which will just be for my family. We're going to trellis these in the greenhouse until some of my other crops are ready to go in. So my, tomatoes and peppers and stuff like that. Snap peas I just thought would be fun for the kids. They're really pretty, super easy to grow. Just a good little spring snack. I also like to grow things that are easy for us to eat while we're outside working. So we grow a lot of cucumbers, we grow a lot of cherry tomatoes, things that we can just go pick off the vine, eat, get back to work, and don't really have to bother about going inside. So now let's move into another filler flower, but one that I am primarily growing as a dried flower, and that is Status. One, I love growing things, whether it's food or vegetables or herbs, that have multi-purposes, right? If I can grow an herb and it's got culinary properties and medicinal properties, that's a great. If I can grow a cut flower that I can use as, you know, a filler for a bouquet and arrangement, but I can also let it dry and use it for wreaths, use it for ornaments, use it for dried flower bouquets. I love that. So we grow a lot of dried flowers because that is part of how we're turning profit on the farm in the winter. So I plan on extending and expanding my dried flower operation so that I can offer a winter and a fall flower subscription, and these will be dried bouquets. We'll offer ornament kits, wreath kits, and so status is primarily, although we might pull from it sometimes to put in an arrangement, we're primarily growing this, and we will be cutting it, drying it, and storing it for winter uses. So I've been growing status for a few years now. It's so easy. It's so easy. It's so prolific. And again, if you don't cut it at the peak time to use it for an arrangement, let it dry. Cut it and let it dry, and it's perfect for dried arrangements. So we have the pastel mix, which you guys can see here, falls beautifully into that spring and summer palette. I have the Forever Happy variety. All of these, the germination rate has been really great. I get most of my seeds from Johnny Seeds, flowers and vegetables, aside from these Floret originals that we splurged on today. So you can save the seeds from these as well. Just really, really good varieties. Next up, this tray right here, the green one, is an Apricot Beauty. Lives up to its name. And then we have a Seeker Pastel Blue. So last year I grew a ton of the Seeker White and really felt like I just wanted more color, especially because I was arranging with these in the winter time. It just felt a little blah to me. So while I am growing some Seeker White, I really decided I was going to expand and bring on some color this year. So the Seeker Pastel Blue, the Pastel Mix, the Forever Happy, and the Apricot Beauty. Hoping that'll do the trick. All right, so a tried and true zinnia that I'm growing year after year. It's a really great producer. One I really recommend if you are wanting to get into flowers is the Queenie Formula Mix. So at Johnny Seeds, you can buy, it's like Queenie Lime, Queenie Blush, Queenie Orange, Yellow. There's all of these different ones, but they look the same as far as the structure and the texture of the zinnia. But one of the reasons I like to buy the mix is because you can see here, it throws all of these different ones. So instead of cultivating a huge patch of just the blush or just the red or just the orange, this is a nice mix. It's a lot cheaper for me to buy the mix in bulk than to buy the individual ones. So the Queenie Formula Mix, kind of an all-star. I have had, looks like about 98% germination. Pretty great, usually always really great. That one's a must grow. Next up is a new variety for me. It is the Spun Sugar Celosia. It is a Floret original. Again, just looking to add some different colors. I mean, check it out. So now we are moving further back in the tunnel, back to soil blocks again. I have got these fun little spiky things right here, which is called Craspedia. These are so fun. They are also great dried. So they're just these little bitty yellow balls that put off a single stem. Last year I grew these in my cottage garden and did not grow them successfully at all. So I decided I was going to try again this year, plant in a different location to see what happened, but they're too fun not to try. I think they're really fun if you can figure out how to grow them well. I don't want to say they're easy to grow because I will say this will be my third year trying to grow them and I haven't had a successful harvest, but they're so fun and they're versatile, being able to dry them as well, that I just keep trying. The germination rates always really well. I just don't think for me here in Arkansas I have figured out the key to success, but I'm determined. Another variety that we grow every year is the Baby Blue Eucalyptus. Silver Dollar is also a great, the Baby Blue is smaller, it's better for greenery and bouquets, it doesn't get as big. Super easy to grow, I will say. We are going to try to take cuttings this year, overwinter them in our tunnels so that we're not having to start again. I know in some places eucalyptus grows as like trees. They will perennialize. I've been able to do that once. I killed mine last year, so I'm having to start over again. But one, it smells great. There's so many great properties. You can dry it, but for me, this would be considered one of those greeneries that we're adding in arrangements, and they really are just stunning. So we have quite a bit of that. Has always been a tried and true. I've actually always grown our eucalyptus in grow bags in the walkways of our tunnel because I haven't had a lot of space for it. I find that it really enjoys the heat from the tunnel and the environment that's created in it. So I am going to test it. I am going to grow it a few different places on our farm this year, but it will definitely still go in grow bags because I just found that was super easy. Next up, we have an iron pastel stalk. I've never grown stalk before, so you'll notice that I'm mentioning there's a lot of new varieties to me. Typically, if you've been following me for any period of time, when I was growing primarily vegetables for profit, I would add in like 2 experimental crops a year. That was it. I stuck to my tried and true, but I am new to flower farming. I'm trying to figure out what varieties I like. I'm also trying to figure out what does well in my climate. So at some point, you do have to experiment and you do have to see. So I didn't want to designate a massive spot to this. I can throw this in my cottage garden. I can easily use this as a filler just to see if I like what it looks like, take notes. Did it have pests? Did it have disease? And really the only way I'm going to know that and keep fine-tuning what we want to grow here is by growing small batches at a time and testing it. So if you are starting out, I would not recommend growing so many new varieties. Figure out those things. The first year I started flower farming, I only grew zinnias. That was all I grew. That was all I sold. The second year I grew zinnias and sunflowers, but primarily I focused on sunflowers because it was a new crop that I was growing at scale. I was trying to figure out how to succession sow. And then the third year I decided, okay, I'm going to add in dahlias, which was a whole nother thing. So just be mindful of that. Don't feel like you have to go all in. Start with a few things. You can just grow sunflowers. You can cut 6, bundle that up in a bouquet, sell it wholesale, sell it like an arrangement, whatever you want. Don't feel like you have to go all in. There is a method to my madness though. I'm trying to trial out varieties and figure out, okay, could stalk be one that I did add on? So I will say the stalk is a new one. I've also tried this Magic Fountain Mix Delphinium. I've had a horrible time keeping it alive. It is super puny. It has not handled the environment outside, so I know, okay, that's not going to be one that I'm even going to waste my time on again, even though it might be great for some people. So that's the only way I'm really going to know that is by doing this assessment on the front end. Next on our greenhouse tour is yarrow. Now, I have a ton of yarrow in my cottage garden. It is a perennial, meaning that it will perennialize, come back year after year. It actually spreads and comes back bigger and better and fuller. It's so great. We had a pretty harsh winter and I lost a lot of mine, surprisingly. So I'm mainly just replacing the crops that I lost last year, but there are so many fun varieties. This is a flower burst yarrow. You guys can see here the colors are super fun. And then I'm growing a summer pastel. These are fun because they're great for attracting pollinators. They're great dried flowers. They're beautiful in arrangements. And then if you grow the common white variety, there's so many medicinal properties to that. So we also have that growing out in the cottage garden. But if I can establish different flowers on our farm that will perennialize, come back year after year, and I have the space for it, I want to do that. So I'm trying to figure out what I can establish in my cottage garden and pull from that as needed. And it's not necessarily a primary crop, but it has its own designated space because yarrow does perennialize so well. I would hate to grow it as an annual, although you certainly could do that. Here in the back tray, we just have more of that baby blue eucalyptus, which again is a great greenery. All right, so back here, I just started these yesterday, so you'll see none of them have obviously come up yet, but these were redos of accidents. So here we have just Salanova mix of lettuces. We usually do this in 72 cell trays. We grow or try to grow spinach and lettuce year round, and we'll just change out different varieties. The Salanova foundations mix and the premium mix do really well for us. Also a cut and come again, so we can get several harvests off of them. And so I've already got 2 trays pretty established. This is just that next succession to make sure I'm staggering that. Next up, we have our hybrid varieties for our greenhouse. So for our greenhouse, we're growing primarily hybrids that are greenhouse specific varieties because they do so much better with that climate. most of our tomatoes, we're going to be topping and forcing them to create 2 liters, and we're going to have 2-liter systems on those. So there will not be very many of these varieties that are heirloom, mainly just because we are growing our family's food year-round, and so production is really big. This year is also a year that we have ran out of ketchup, chutneys, we're low on diced tomatoes, so you're going to be seeing a lot of paste tomatoes as well, just because we're trying to stock up, and that's typically something we're only having to grow a bunch of those every couple years. So we have a variety called Bee Orange. We have a Coralina, which is a red slicer. I've got a, it's really like a paste mix from Johnny's, and so it's plums and paste and Romas. It's just a good little mix. I have a Pisano. We have got the San Marzano, which of course is a staple in the paste world. And as far as peppers, the Carmen pepper, look at this, you guys. This is a staple for us. It is a very, very productive plant. And we're adding in a lunchbox pepper mix just so we can be able to, again, quick snacking while we're out here on the farm. Now we are shifting back to flowers. I started some Scabiosa, which I have grown successfully here on this farm. Not really sure what happened, but I was not having the best germination, so I decided to just go ahead and restart some in bigger cell containers and giving them more nutrients from the start. So I'm growing a variety called Snow Maiden. Really pretty. I'm growing a variety that is a triple berry mix. I'm growing a, let me butcher this, a Fata Morgan, a salmon rose, which is stunning, and a starflower. So these are all just reseeding because I didn't have the best luck with my first round. Really want to grow these because I have successfully grown these before. I'm just really wanting to get these established, so I went ahead and reseeded some of those. Alright, so now let's talk through amaranth. I love growing amaranth, although the pests really love them here as well. It's a fun grain. We use them in arrangements, but I love amaranth as a dried flower. There is truly nothing more stunning. So there are a few new varieties I'm adding in, some that I have always had. So the hot biscuit amaranth, again, I love that color. So this is a tried and true. I am adding in the red spice, the emerald tassel, and a hoppy red dye. But amaranth is a fun one. It does take up quite a bit of space. It really is susceptible to pests. So what I have to do is strip a lot of the foliage and just keep the actual amaranth. It's one of those, I have the space in my cottage garden. I will say if you're limited on space, probably not your best one to grow, but it is a fun one for me to grow. So that's why I added it back in this year. All right, are y'all dizzy yet as we're just making our way around? So some of these, again, also another succession. Here are my poor little tomatoes. A tried and true I always grow is the Sakura. It is a cherry tomato that is so productive. I have been growing the golden sweet grape. Absolutely love it with the spinach avocado salad. The Napa Chardonnay is a new one I'm trying this year. But as far as red slicers, Rebelskis are just a tried and true. They produce really well. They have great flavor. So those are all of the slicers that I am growing. And then we can move over here. I'll actually pick these up and show you. These are also really fun. I would not consider them a cut flower, but they are pansies. And I grow a lot of pansies because we like to press flowers. We like to make care cards and use flowers that we have preserved or saved on farm. Pansies are a great one. We also have a lot of tower gardens that are sprinkled throughout the entire farm. And so these compacted little plants do really well in that. They also do really well in terracotta plants. We have a flower stand this year. I'm thinking about making an inviting space. So some of these, it's less production in mind, and it's more so the aesthetic of creating a space and experience for people when they come on the farm. And when it comes to just an easy flower you can stick somewhere in a border, again, the nasturtiums are beautiful, but the pansies are also beautiful. They're an edible flower. We add them on salads, different cheese boards, all sorts of stuff. You can press them. They're beautiful just to make fun winter crafts with as well. And then back here we have an entire tray of different snap peas. I think I might want to grow snap peas as foliage for flowers. And I'm not sure. I've seen it done before. It sparked my curiosity. I had all of these seeds already. And so I decided I'm going to grow them. I'm going to see what this really looks like, if I can make that work. And so these are just a 72 cell tray of different snap pea varieties. I will say, because my seeds were pretty old, I have not had great germination rate, but I will put these all on a trellis and just make sure that I'm labeling them correctly to be able to tell the difference. Would it be fun to add a food to a flower arrangement? I don't know, I'm kind of testing the boundaries here, so we'll see. Back here we have more Salanova mix, a staple. I have got an Amaretto basil. Basil is one of our #1 filler flowers on the farm. It's a cut and come again. You keep pinching it, it'll keep branching off. It adds a lot of texture. There's a lot of different varieties. The Amaretto is kind of this greenish purpley. It's just fun. It's just a really fun one. It does really well for us. When in doubt, eat it, throw it in a lemonade, throw it in a tea, so it's just great. And then back here, this is all just my second succession. So I started more nasturtiums, I started more status, I started more zinnias, and then I started more pansies. So this was just all that second round that I knew I would need to have something in the pipeline. So that's usually just how I keep that. Over here, these fun little bushy trees behind me, we have got celosia. Now I did make the mistake of starting these all in a handheld mini 20, which are these really, really tiny soil blocks. It took me and my friend Danielle forever to up pot these, so I have found that I would start them in bigger pots to begin with. I've heard great things about cosmos. I've only ever grown them kind of as just a wildflower in my cottage garden, never for production. So this will be the first year I ordered seeds, and I'm growing them with the intent to add texture and depth to bouquets. So I am growing quite a few varieties. I'm telling you, you can get carried away. So this is the Cupcake Blush. You can see here, it's really pretty. We are growing an afternoon white, which I think will just be really pretty when I think about all the other colors that we're doing. I don't grow a lot of white flowers because I find that the pests like them best, but I've heard from other growers in our area the cosmos are one of those that actually are pretty decent with pests. I have got a Rubenza Cosmo. We have a double click, and you guys, let me tell you, these do not disappoint. They are out of this world. And it looks like those are all of the varieties there. So whites, pinks, blushes. Here I have a Highlander ornamental grass. I grew this last year. They're fun. Bunny tails. I have a hard time with like bunny tail germinating and doing well. So the millets, some of the different like Highlander grasses, they're really fun. They do really well. And so I've got a lot of those started. Another vegetable I'm growing for my family is kohlrabi. We grow a ton of this in the winter, but I'm trying a spring crop of it. We ferment this. We use it as a potato replacement, as a starch a lot of times as well. So it's just one of those spring staples that needs to get in the high tunnel. And then I've got a few more things I'll show you. The rest of the stuff is in the house, so I'm not going to take you up there. But all my straw flowers, we're growing so many straw flowers. I'll have to do a whole segment of those, but we're growing a lot of straw flowers. Some different herbs and things like that started in the house. Back here I just have some spinach that needs to go out. I've got a triple berry yarrow variety. I've got more kohlrabi started, more pansy started, some elephant dill. So just fun things. When we are trying to think about arrangements and bouquets, and then we're trying to think about the medicinal garden, and then I'm trying to think about borders. It's just a lot of things. So you'll notice that there was a variety of things that I am growing. And that's just because I have so many spaces to fill. As far as food production, we've already sowed an entire 48-foot long bed of of radish, carrots, beets. We've got our garlic, our onions, our leeks, and our shallots planted. So the next thing that we're really gonna go in is gonna be all of those spring greens. Then we'll follow that with our cucumbers, our tomatoes, our peppers, and then we'll finish that back out in the fall with all of our brassicas, our cabbage, our kohlrabi, broccoli. We grow a ton of that, but we definitely are only growing those things throughout the fall and the winter, and we're really sticking to our summer staples in the summertime. But my gosh, if you have made it with me throughout this entire greenhouse tour, bless you. I don't know, I just wanted to share with you guys what we're growing. I get really joyful thinking about the farm being filled with flowers. This has been such a dream that we've been working towards for several years now, and I just wanted to share with you, whether you're wanting to just add, you know, flowers into your garden to be able to have a fresh bouquet every week on your table, just so that it sparks joy and you can walk outside and see the beauty, or maybe you're wanting to turn a profit on it. I wanted to share with you guys the varieties that we're growing here at Whispering Willow Farm, and hopefully encourage you guys to sow a few more flowers this year. But thank you all so much for hanging out with me. All of the resources I mentioned will be down in the description, and I'll talk to y'all soon.